Arachnophobia, fear of spiders. Arachnophobia is an intense fear of spiders. This fear can be so overwhelming that even the sight or thought of a spider can cause anxiety or panic. Evolutionary theory suggests that this fear may be rooted in our ancestors, who needed to avoid venomous spiders to survive. Today, despite many spiders being harmless, the fear persists. People with arachnophobia might avoid places where spiders could be, like basements or attics, and their daily life can be significantly disrupted by this fear. Treatment often involves gradual exposure to spiders in a controlled environment, known as exposure therapy, or cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, which helps individuals reframe their thoughts about spiders and reduce fear. Ophidiophobia, fear of snakes. Ophidiophobia is the fear of snakes. Like arachnophobia, this fear is believed to be evolutionary, as avoiding potentially dangerous snakes would have been advantageous for survival. However, not all snakes are harmful, and the fear can be disproportionate to the actual danger posed by most snakes. Symptoms include extreme anxiety, sweating, or even fainting when encountering a snake or thinking about one. People with ophidiophobia might avoid outdoor activities or locations where snakes might be present. Treatment methods include exposure therapy and CBT, which can help individuals learn to manage and reduce their fear over time.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more topics you love.
Acrophobia, fear of heights. Acrophobia is the fear of heights. This fear can cause intense anxiety when looking down from a high place, such as a tall building, mountain, or even a ladder. The fear can be so severe that it affects a person's ability to function normally, leading them to avoid high places altogether. Some theories suggest this fear stems from the natural human instinct to avoid falling from dangerous heights. Symptoms include dizziness, sweating, and feeling unable to move. Treatment often involves gradual exposure to heights and CBT to help manage the fear and improve tolerance to higher elevations. Aerophobia, fear of flying. Aerophobia is the fear of flying. This fear can stem from various sources, including fear of heights, fear of enclosed spaces, or fear of losing control. For some, it may be triggered by a traumatic flight experience or extensive media coverage of aviation accidents. Symptoms include panic attacks, sweating, and avoidance of air travel, which can significantly limit personal and professional opportunities. Treatment typically involves CBT to address the underlying thoughts and fears associated with flying, and sometimes exposure therapy, where individuals gradually become more comfortable with the idea of flying through simulated experiences or short flights. Claustrophobia, fear of confined spaces. Claustrophobia is the fear of confined or enclosed spaces. This phobia can cause intense anxiety and panic when a person is in a small space, such as an elevator, small room, or crowded area. The fear is often related to a feeling of being trapped or suffocated. Symptoms include sweating, rapid heartbeat, and a strong desire to escape the situation. Claustrophobia can significantly impact daily activities, making it difficult to use public transportation or visit certain places. Treatment generally involves exposure therapy and CBT to help individuals confront their fear and learn to manage their anxiety in confined spaces. Mysophobia, fear of germs or dirt. Mysophobia, also known as germophobia, is the fear of germs, dirt, or contamination. People with this phobia are excessively concerned about cleanliness and hygiene, often engaging in repetitive behaviors like handwashing, avoiding physical contact, or excessively cleaning their environment. This fear can be linked to a desire to avoid illness or infection. Symptoms include anxiety, obsessive thoughts about contamination, and compulsive cleaning behaviors. Mysophobia can interfere with daily life, causing significant stress and avoidance of social situations. Treatment typically involves CBT to address the obsessive thoughts and behaviors and exposure therapy to gradually reduce the fear of germs and contamination. Cynophobia, fear of dogs. Cynophobia is the fear of dogs, a relatively common phobia that can result from a traumatic experience with a dog, such as being bitten or chased. This fear can be severe enough to cause panic attacks, sweating, and avoidance of places where dogs might be present, like parks or homes of friends who own dogs. Despite dogs being widely regarded as friendly and loyal pets, the fear can persist due to the perceived threat. Treatment for cynophobia often includes exposure therapy, where the individual is gradually introduced to dogs in a controlled manner, and CBT to help change the negative thoughts and reactions associated with dogs. Over time, these methods can help reduce the fear and enable the person to interact more comfortably with dogs. Agoraphobia, fear of open or crowded spaces. Agoraphobia is the fear of being in situations where escape might be difficult or help unavailable during a panic attack. This can include open spaces, crowded places, or simply being outside the home. People with agoraphobia often feel intense anxiety in these situations, leading them to avoid them altogether. This avoidance can severely limit their daily activities and social interactions. The fear often stems from a previous panic attack, causing the individual to fear having another one in a public or unfamiliar place. Treatment typically involves CBT to address the anxiety and avoidance behaviors, and exposure therapy to gradually reintroduce the individual to feared situations in a controlled, supportive environment. Astraphobia, fear of thunder and lightning. Astraphobia is the fear of thunder and lightning, a common phobia especially among children but can persist into adulthood. This fear can be triggered by the loud noises and sudden flashes associated with storms, leading to panic attacks, sweating, and a strong desire to seek shelter. People with astraphobia might go to great lengths to avoid being caught in a storm, such as obsessively checking weather forecasts or staying indoors during rainy seasons. The fear may be linked to the unpredictability and potential danger of storms. Treatment often includes CBT to address the irrational thoughts and fears about storms, and exposure therapy to gradually desensitize the individual to thunder and lightning. Trypanophobia, fear of injections or medical needles. Trypanophobia is the fear of injections or medical needles. This fear can cause significant anxiety and avoidance of medical procedures, sometimes leading individuals to neglect important health care. Symptoms include panic attacks, fainting, or feeling nauseous at the sight of needles or the thought of an injection. The fear often originates from a traumatic experience with needles or a general anxiety about medical procedures. Treatment typically involves exposure therapy, where the individual is gradually exposed to needles in a safe and controlled environment, and CBT to help reframe their thoughts and reduce anxiety. Relaxation techniques and breathing exercises can also be helpful in managing the physical symptoms of this phobia. Social phobia, social anxiety disorder. Social phobia, also known as social anxiety disorder, is the fear of social situations where one might be judged, embarrassed, or scrutinized by others. This fear can be so intense that it interferes with daily activities, such as going to work, school, or social events. Symptoms include excessive self-consciousness, sweating, trembling, and avoidance of social interactions. The fear often stems from a fear of negative evaluation or rejection. Treatment usually involves CBT to address the negative thoughts and behaviors associated with social situations, and exposure therapy to gradually increase comfort and confidence in social settings. Medications and support groups can also be beneficial in managing social phobia. Thanatophobia, fear of death or dying. Thanatophobia is the fear of death or dying. This fear can be overwhelming and affect a person's ability to enjoy life. It can manifest as anxiety about one's own death, the death of loved ones, or the dying process itself. Symptoms include panic attacks, obsessive thoughts about death, and avoidance of situations that remind one of mortality, such as funerals or hospitals. The fear often stems from uncertainty about what happens after death or a traumatic experience related to death. Treatment typically involves CBT to help individuals confront and reframe their thoughts about death, and existential therapy to address deeper concerns about meaning and existence. Learning mindfulness and relaxation techniques can also help manage the anxiety associated with Thanatophobia. Nyctophobia, fear of the dark. Nyctophobia is the fear of the dark, often stemming from a fear of the unknown or what might be lurking in the darkness. This fear is common in children but can persist into adulthood. It can cause significant anxiety, leading individuals to avoid dark places or experience trouble sleeping without a light. The fear is often rooted in evolutionary survival instincts, where darkness posed real dangers to early humans. Symptoms include sweating, rapid heartbeat, and a feeling of panic when in the dark or anticipating darkness. Treatment typically involves exposure therapy, where individuals gradually spend more time in dark environments, and CBT to address the irrational thoughts and fears associated with darkness. Relaxation techniques and nighttime routines can also help ease the anxiety. Emetophobia, fear of vomiting. Emetophobia is the fear of vomiting or seeing others vomit. This phobia can lead to significant distress and avoidance behaviors, such as avoiding certain foods, places, or situations where vomiting might occur. The fear often stems from a traumatic vomiting experience or a deep-seated anxiety about losing control. Symptoms include intense anxiety, nausea, and obsessive behaviors to prevent vomiting. Emetophobia can severely impact daily life, leading to social isolation and dietary restrictions. Treatment usually involves CBT to challenge and reframe the negative thoughts about vomiting, and exposure therapy to gradually reduce the fear response. Relaxation and mindfulness techniques can also be beneficial in managing the anxiety associated with this phobia. Glossophobia, fear of public speaking. Glossophobia is the fear of public speaking and is one of the most common phobias. This fear can cause intense anxiety and physical symptoms such as sweating, trembling, and a rapid heartbeat when faced with the prospect of speaking in front of an audience. The fear often stems from a fear of judgment, embarrassment, or making mistakes in front of others. Symptoms can be so severe that they interfere with professional and personal opportunities. Treatment typically involves CBT to address the negative thoughts and fears associated with public speaking, and exposure therapy to gradually increase confidence and comfort in speaking situations. Practicing public speaking in supportive environments and learning relaxation techniques can also help manage the anxiety. Dentophobia, fear of dentists or dental procedures. Dentophobia is the fear of dentists or dental procedures. This fear can lead to avoidance of necessary dental care, resulting in poor oral health and related complications. The fear often stems from a traumatic dental experience, fear of pain, or a general anxiety about medical procedures. Symptoms include intense anxiety, panic attacks, and avoidance of dental appointments. Treatment typically involves CBT to address the irrational fears and negative thoughts about dental care, and gradual exposure to dental environments in a controlled manner. Sedation or relaxation techniques, such as deep breathing or listening to music during dental visits, can also help reduce anxiety and make dental care more manageable. Hemophobia, fear of blood. Hemophobia is the fear of blood. This phobia can cause intense anxiety, fainting, or panic attacks at the sight or thought of blood. The fear often stems from a traumatic experience involving blood or an underlying fear of injury or illness. Symptoms include dizziness, nausea, and a strong desire to avoid situations where blood might be present, such as medical procedures or accidents. Hemophobia can interfere with daily life and prevent individuals from seeking necessary medical care. Treatment typically involves CBT to challenge and reframe the negative thoughts about blood, and exposure therapy to gradually desensitize the individual to the sight of blood. Relaxation techniques and controlled breathing exercises can also help manage the physical symptoms of this phobia. Trypophobia, fear of clusters of small holes or patterns. Trypophobia is the fear of clusters of small holes or patterns, such as those found in honeycombs, sponges, or lotus seed pods. This fear can cause intense feelings of discomfort, disgust, and anxiety. The exact cause of trypophobia is not well understood, but it may be related to an evolutionary aversion to patterns that resemble those found in disease or parasites. Symptoms include nausea, itching, and a strong desire to avoid images or objects with clustered holes. Treatment often involves CBT to address the irrational fears and negative reactions to these patterns, and exposure therapy to gradually reduce the fear response. Mindfulness and relaxation techniques can also help manage the anxiety associated with trypophobia.